Today we're going to be talking about emotions. Vincent, why do you think emotions are so important? Why do we need them?
I mean, as you know, that all of us have emotions, right? Yeah. I mean, emotion help us to, most of the time, help us to make decisions. Yeah, we make decisions by emotions than the logical thinking. Like I can think of his example, like, I mean, if I want to buy something, right, I won't logically think about, wow, what is it or is it, but I just want to get it. Or I just feel excited when I get it. Yeah, get something that I want.
And if you, I think we all have experienced it before, right? It's lunchtime or dinner time, and you ask yourself, what do I feel like eating? Right? So that
Yeah.
itself tells you that your decision is largely based on emotions. And actually, that's one of the worst questions to ask. What do I feel like eating? Because what you would usually go for are unhealthy foods. Because unhealthy foods are one of the most tasty foods, right? It is the healthy foods that are not as tasty. Yeah. All right. So decision making is one. And I think also another is better relationships, because without emotions, how do you really connect? How do you really feel, each other and really be intimate with each other without emotions, right? And how do you understand each other fully if you only understand each other's thinking? All right, we have opinions and we have similar opinions. We agree on most things. It actually sounds like a very boring relationship. Right.
Yeah.
Just join
True.
a club, join a political party. Even in a political party, not everybody agrees, and there's lots of emotions, right? And if you are, fighting for a cause, right, you need to have emotions. That's where passion comes from. If you do not have emotions, then you are passionless, and so you are, not fighting for anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
What else
true.
can you think of? What's emotions useful?
Also, emotions is also like in terms of, it's also part of one of the motivation factors, I will see. Yeah, and especially when you are kind of like, as an example, like when you're taking exam or something like that, yeah, taking a test, yeah, we will get a bit anxious. Yeah, and then of course with this will be add also in terms of helping us to motivate ourselves to prepare for our test or examination. Yeah, and that's what I see always, like the students. Yeah, when they will wait until they, yeah, last minute, right? Then they get a bit anxious already, and then they start to worry. Then they will last minute, then they will prepare. If not, it will take them for long time for them to prepare until maybe the last week or the 1-2 weeks before the exam.
That's right. It's called procrastination, right? Yeah. But
Yeah.
procrastination is not all bad. That's what I read. Martin Luther King, when he gave that speech, right, the well-known speech, I Have a Dream, it was actually very last minute. He wrote a speech, but when he stood up behind the podium and started speaking, just minutes before that, he was writing a new script in his mind, and it was the I Have a Dream speech. Yeah, so creative people, what I understand, that's how they work. All right.
Yeah.
They have a plan, they have something, but they still wait to the last minute, to allow a creative idea to pop into their head. And the other thing is emotions is also important for better quality of life. I mean, we are surrounded by nature, we are surrounded by beauty of all kinds. And you can't really enjoy them if you do not have emotions, right? If you're unable to experience ecstasy or, joy or, amazement and things like that, then your quality of life cannot be very, very good.
True, I agree. Yeah, and of course, it's the one of the things also to understand and managing our own emotions. Yeah, because it's also key of maintaining good mental health.
Right now, what we are trying to tell ourselves or tell people is emotions are essential. They are a very integral part of our lives. And the problem is, for many of us, especially men, we have kind of blocked them out. Many men, not all, but many men have difficulty feeling those emotions. They feel uncomfortable when they have emotions. I mean, apart from happiness and joy, right? And watching football games or whatever sports, apart from those kinds of emotions, the other kinds, the more negative ones, can be a bit problematic for some people. So that's what we want to focus on. I'm sure you've heard of this, that, people saying that women are more emotional and men are more rational or logical. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree or disagree?
I don't agree on that. Yeah, I mean, every one of us have emotion, whether it's man or woman. Yeah, it's just that maybe it's in terms of the expressing. Yeah, women are more, I mean, easier to express their emotion, whereas guys kind of hide their emotions most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to share a true story here. Okay, this is about a couple that I was helping, and it was like 1.5 hour session. And so this guy one time said, the problem with my wife and I is that she's emotional and I'm logical. And so when I caught that, I didn't want to react, right? So I held it, and I let it go on, right? And then he said it the second time. And again, I didn't want to react.
Okay.
All right. But then when he said the third time, I said, all right, this is it. Strike three, I must say something. So I said, hey, I noticed you've said this 3 times, that your wife or women in general are emotional, and men, you are logical. I want to challenge you on that. Do you really believe that? And he really believed it, and he really was very, very sincere about it. And I helped him to see that may be the general consensus among a lot of people, but it is not true. It is true because, the fact that you think you're almost 100% logical, it tells me that you're 100% emotional, but you're not aware of your emotions. You're not aware of what you're feeling, right? Somehow you have become numb to them. Somehow you have not become sensitive to them. And therefore you tell yourself that I am 100% logical, right? And so he and we had a separate session. We kind of paused the couple sessions, and I took him aside and have 3 separate sessions to help him, to increase his emotional intelligence, right? To be able to unlock those feelings in him again. So after 3 sessions, we resumed our couple sessions, and he told me, that actually, in fact, the boy and him told me that their conflicts have actually drastically reduced since the last time. And one of the reasons is because this guy was now more in touch with his feelings. He was more aware of that he's reacting, how maybe something his wife said or did was pushing the right buttons in him and causing him to react. And he was able to catch it quick enough and manage it, all right? And even share it with his wife that, when you said this is how I feel about it. And so a lot of conflicts, a lot of fights were, in that sense, avoided because of that. Yeah. So I want to just underline this thing that, emotions are very important. And it is not true that women are emotional, men are logical.
Yeah, I think also part of it is because of the parenting, the way how, I mean, boys have been parent is very different. Yeah, especially for the child experiences. Okay, for example, even when we are young as a boy, I mean, we are always like kind of say that, you cannot cry, boy should not cry, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and we are taught that we learn to suppress our emotions. Yeah, and I think it's quite okay for girls to cry, right, when they have pain, but boys cry, then think that, hey, you're too like girlish or what, or too CC. Yeah, and to us, I mean, most of the time we ask the men out, okay, just, hey, you are a boy, you should not cry. In Chinese, there's this saying called 流血不流泪. You rather shed blood than the cry.
Yeah. I don't know where we got it from, but it has been perpetuated from generations to generations, and I hope this stops, right? There was a research coming out of Harvard where they actually observed infant babies, boys and girls, right? And they were observing their emotional expressions. And the conclusion was that the infant boys actually, they were more emotionally expressive than the infant girls. But somehow, by the time that these babies became teenagers, it was like the opposite. They switched places, right? Boys were no longer as emotionally expressive. Well, in a very limited way. I think you understand, right? Mostly anger, mostly aggression, all right, and very hostile kind of behavior. Uh, and I think like you're right, it has to do a lot with parenting, things like harsh punishment. There are also studies that show, that tell us that a pair of parents, if they have a boy and a girl, a son and a daughter, and if both commit the same crime, the boy would usually be punished more harshly than the girl. you know and so that already creates that sense of unfairness, injustice, and all that kind of thing. And there's a lot of, I can imagine, a lot of pent up anger and resentment in that boy towards the parents. And of course, have you heard of childhood emotional neglect?
No, yes, yeah. In fact, I'm trained in that. Yeah, I went through a
Wonderful.
training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that. What is childhood emotional neglect?
Okay, you see a lot of times like, like kids, as kids, our parents will provide us with the, like, at least the physical needs, lah. They are all being met, or shelter, food is met. Yeah, but it's just that the emotions, they are not there, yeah, emotionally connected with us. That means there is this unmet emotional needs, yeah, that's not met. Yeah. So these are the things that, yeah, normally a lot of times we call it even, there's this calling of this CEN, yeah, childhood emotional neglect, is this invisible trauma. Yeah.
I think if we just think in terms of, what was known as the typical Asian parent, and usually it's the father, the strong, silent type, hardworking, but usually he is the disciplinarian at home. The mother is the homemaker, the mother is a housewife, right? Cooks and cleans and takes care of the children. But when the children misbehave, the mother would say, wait till your daddy gets home. Right. Yeah. But childhood emotional neglect is, I think we have to be clear, it's not the same as emotional abuse. So emotional neglect is when the parents fail to provide something that the child needs. And that is emotional attention. All right. When a child is feeling sad or afraid or even tired, and the parents are either dismissive of the emotion. Oh, you're not sad, come on, get over it. It's such a small thing. Or they're even disapproving. For example, a parent and a boy is walking along the road trying to get to a destination. And then the boy says, I'm tired. And instead of empathizing and saying something like, oh, maybe we can take a break, just rest for a while, the parent disapproves and says something like, you're not tired, you're just lazy. Yeah. And if this happens often enough, the child begins to learn that, well, maybe I should not tell people how I feel because nobody cares, nobody wants to know. And in fact, often I get scolded.
Yeah.
Right. So they learn to suppress it, they learn to push it down, and that's where it all gets haywire.
Yeah. In fact, call myself the one of once upon a time, yeah, a victim of, childhood emotional neglect. Yeah, because my parents were not there emotionally for me. Yeah, and of course, coming to the attention, because we have quite a number of my siblings, two elder siblings. I'm the younger one. Yeah, and then back then I have my younger brothers. Yeah, who passed on because of leukemia. Okay, so at that state of time, also the attentions is more focusing on him also. Yeah. So I'm being the so-called the middle one. Yeah, I have not much of the attentions emotionally. Yeah.
So if you don't mind, can you share how did you recover from that? How did you feel again?
I remember when I was in even as a young adult, I don't really talk about my emotions. Yeah. I kind of suppress my emotions. Yeah. And of course, the one emotions that I know is anger, aggressiveness. Okay. I used to be a very angry person. Yeah. If you know me, 20 years ago, yeah, I was that kind. Yeah. I overuse vulgarity if I'm not happy about it. Yeah. That was me. Yeah. And after being knowing that, I mean, working as a counselors, yeah, I learned just to learn more to express get in touch with my own emotions. Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, let me tell you. Even when I got married, yeah, at the age of 23, was still very young that back then. Yeah, I was not a counselor yet. Yeah, so can you imagine? Yeah, I mean, my anger was such an angry person. So
Were
yeah, I
you a
will.
police officer already?
Yes, I was a police
Oh,
officer back
wow.
then.
So I can imagine
Mm.
that.
Can you with the authority given to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
and then
license to whack, man.
yeah, license to show aggressiveness. Okay. Yeah, back then I have wow, I mean, I can imagine the first few years in my marriage life. Wow, I mean, not easy. Yeah.